This is the Brydge Pro keyboard for the iPad Pro 11-inch. And I've had it for a year now. And a year ago I posted a video about this. It was simply an unboxing and it had like 100,000 views. And I feel kind of like it's been a year. I should probably talk about it. So that's what we're going to do today. Alright, so as you can see, I've got an iPad 11 Pro 11-inch here. The Apple Pencil 2 on top. Perfectly fits. And this is the Brydge keyboard. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about, while it's in frame here, what's changed about my iPad usage after getting this, which is the iPad has stopped being an iPad for me. I used to be a Smart Keyboard Folio user until this came out, and I bought this based on a recommendation from Jason Snell, and he loved it. And I ordered this, and it wasn't an expensive purchase. But what it did was it turned my iPad into a laptop. And for long distance motorcycle travel, which is what I primarily bought this for, it was fantastic to be able to put this into my tank bag and go on a long trip for a week or two and still get work done, type fast enough. But I stopped taking the iPad out of the Brydge. And here's why. I would get home. This would be, I've got a SF Bags or Waterfield Designs bag that I use with this. I'll actually get it for you so you can see it in person. And this bag here is fantastic. Leather, it's got waxed canvas. Open it up, and the Brydge Pro goes right inside. With the iPad Pro, of course. Just like that. Close it up. And this would actually be my portability going to and from home setup. I would use this, I would get to work, I would untake this out. This would go with me to meetings. My MacBook Pro at work would stay basically docked full-time in that scenario. And this kind of became my meeting computer, which is fantastic. But when I got home, what made the iPad great after years of use was the ability to use it as a reading device at night. Browse Reddit, browse forums, read the news, read books. And I wasn't able to do that anymore in this current setup. Now, guys, I mean, of course, the Brydge is not permanent. You're not, laser welding your iPad to the Brydge. But this act of having to pull this out and gently, because you don't want to damage this rubber, which as you can see if I get close up here, you can see it's barely held on. It may be glued at the bottom, but it's barely held on there. Also, these hinges, I was afraid about breaking them, so I kind of got to the point where I actually started using my iPhone more at the house. And about 6 weeks ago, I took the iPad out of the Brydge Pro and I put it away to see. I wanted, because now that I'm working from home due to the COVID-19, I wanted to experience the iPad as a laptop again, or as a tablet again, and it stayed like this. And it's been great. I've been using it as a tablet at night because I have an iMac. And not going to meetings. And I miss the iPad as a laptop for when I do eventually go back to work, but I also missed the iPad as a tablet. And so I'm just kind of happy to be rid of the Brydge Pro after a year. It's a device that will go back on my iPad when I take motorcycle trips. Other than that, it's going to stay in a drawer. A couple of things I want to mention briefly about this device. The edges down here are super hard. They start to kind of indent into my wrist after a little bit of while of typing. They're really sharp. They're not razor sharp like some of the older MacBooks or PowerBooks, but they are pampered a little bit, but it's still sharp. The case flexes a little bit when I'm resting my palms on it. It flexes down here, which kind of makes the ergos a little bit challenging for me. Make sure that's still in frame. And then, let me zoom in for you guys. That's better. Yeah. So it had some problems with just kind of settling a little bit too much right here when I'm typing on it. Also, another issue with this are the keys are they float a little bit. They're not solid. I don't know how to explain it, but if you look at like the B key here and you touch the edges, it tends to float on the actual key a bit there, so it kind of moves around a little bit. So what you can happen is when you're having some key travel, you may have some false presses as you're traveling your fingers across the key. In addition, if you don't type with purpose, if you don't really fully depress these keys, you may miss some letters. And luckily, based on how great iPad OS is, you generally autocorrect will save your ass, but when it doesn't, it's really annoying because of course there's no trackpad, so you've got to take your hands off the keyboard, go up, and one thing that they introduced in iPad OS 1 or 2 years ago was the ability to, in the virtual keyboard on your iPad screen, you were able to use your finger, hold it over the keyboard, and then you can actually, and a cursor appears, you can move your finger around. You can't do that on here, so you're going to have to actually use the arrow keys or come up and actually like navigate with the keyboard. And getting the virtual keyboard to appear when this is connected is also a chore. So autocorrect was great until it wasn't, and then you're kind of basically losing your train of thought in order to go back and make an edit to a word that was autocorrected incorrectly or just is missing a letter. The backlighting was always great, no problems with backlighting. I love the function keys up here, being able to pause a song, being able to adjust the brightness of the screen or the keyboard, having a home button up here. These were all really, really nice things to have. I'm going to miss them a lot. But the typing feel was just inaccurate enough to make me not like it for long form writing. I'm not a type with purpose kind of individual, so that was an issue for me. One other merely usability thing is that this only bends back so far, and once you get past a certain point, it's going to collapse all the way down. That's just kind of the nature of how the Brydge Pro hinges work. You can see it slowly falling backward. And maybe another gripe is the keyboard was supposed to last for a few months in a charge, but in my experience, it really didn't last long enough. And so what I found was every night I would get home and I would plug in the iPad, and then before bed I would plug in the keyboard. So having to charge two separate devices kind of became annoying. And what really put the nail in the coffin for the Brydge keyboard was Apple added mouse or trackpad support to the latest version of iPad OS. And when they did that, I contemplated buying the Brydge upgrade with the trackpad. Before I read the couple reviews saying the trackpad just didn't feel very Mac-like. It was very Windows-like for a trackpad, and trackpads are really hard to make feel good. And me being a Mac user, my fingers don't like using Windows trackpads, and it's not like a mental aversion. Most Windows trackpads are rough, where the Macintosh trackpads are glass, and so Brydge's choice in trackpad kind of scared me away from it. And then I started thinking, well, I could put up with the trackpad being kind of rough around the edges, but do I actually want to give in to the issues I've had last year where the iPad stays in the Brydge full time and never leaves? It's just there constantly. And it's in the tablet mode. It feels weird, but I'm gonna actually quote an article about this that I read just literally last night about this, which is perfectly stated in my opinion. And this is from Federico at Mac Stories, who said, their design discouraged a constant alternation of roles from laptop to tablet and vice versa. It could be done, but carefully putting the iPad inside the Brydge keyboard clips and pulling it out was a chore. As a result, I found myself leaving the iPad Pro in the Brydge keyboard at all times and never using it as a tablet. And at that point, just grab your MacBook, right? This was meant to be a travel setup. It wasn't meant to be a full-time setup. But going in and out of meetings all day and then taking this out to use it as a tablet just didn't happen. And so I ended up keeping in this mode for a whole year. And there were a couple of times where I forgot to charge the Brydge keyboard and it would be not charged. And Apple's Smart Connector, which keeps the keyboard charged at all times, was just so good that I found myself missing the keyboard folio, right? And so, but the problem with the keyboard folio is the terrible typing experience. So here's your keyboard folio before we close out this review. Here's your keyboard folio. The keys just the travel is so low and it's even more squishy that I hated typing on this thing too. So when it comes time to add a trackpad to my iPad, I'm not going to purchase a Brydge Pro 2 with a trackpad. I'm going to also put this into a drawer because I'm going to go Magic Keyboard. And what that means is essentially over the last 2 years of iPad Pro ownership, this particular version, I have spent what, $150 on a keyboard. I spent like another $200 on a keyboard, and now I spent an extra $300 on a keyboard. I kind of feel like the Magic Keyboard better be the last keyboard I buy for this iPad, because I can't imagine ever spending more money on freaking keyboards. So that is my 1 year review of the Brydge Pro. I think if you were planning on making the iPad your computer and keeping it in the laptop mode all the time, it's really, really, really nice. You might get over the issues that I have with typing on it. You might get over the lack of pass-through charging. You might get over the lack of a trackpad. But I think for me, wanting the iPad to be a note-taking computer during the day and a tablet at night made the Brydge accessory kind of a loser in my eyes. And so that's just how I want to close the video, is tell you guys how I feel about that. I think that this would still be something that I might put on my computer for motorcycle trips. I like the heft of it. I like the protection of it. I like what they did when they designed these rubber bumpers to protect your iPad. I think that the backing plate is a really good implementation, where Brydge sends you this magnetic backing plate. I find this package to be fantastic for motorcycle travel, but equally as fantastic would be a MacBook Air or a MacBook, which would have full Mac OS. So, thanks for watching. This has been my 1 year review of the Brydge keyboard, and yeah, great accessory. Just kind of superseded by Apple adding trackpad support. Thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful.